Hi, Roy here, and welcome again to another edition podcast of The Right Has Left. I am your host, Roy Garten, and we have a lot of breaking news and things going on with the government shutdown. So this is going to be an interesting podcast. So having said that, let's go ahead and get into the immediate breaking news. Social media users are criticizing former Kentucky Court Clerk Kim Davis for her multiple divorces as she urges the Supreme Court to take on her case challenging gay marriage, which the court has agreed to discuss her case. It will take 4 justices to approve to discuss her claim, which many are seeing as probably doubtful. Monday, of course, we will know if they are going to have the 4 votes to go ahead and hear her case. That doesn't necessarily they're going to rule in her favor. But as I mentioned, this is kind of interesting. She's all against gay marriages and bases on her religious beliefs, but she's been divorced 3 times, according to court records obtained by U.S. News and World Report. Davis has refused to issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples, saying her faith prevented her from complying with the Supreme Court's 2015 ruling in Obergefell versus Hodges. The Supreme Court was expected to consider, will hear her case. As I just mentioned, they have agreed to do that late Friday. Josh Sorbet, a spokesman for the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee, Democrats wrote on X, the triple divorce homophobic Kim Davis is back at the Supreme Court today to try preaching sanctity of marriage and block LGBTQ folks' right to marry. She will lose again, and she'll hopefully begin to reflect within. Another post on X said John Merriman wrote on his X platform, this basically bitch Kim Davis, who has been married 4 times, thinks she has the right to moral judgment and to challenge my marriage to my husband and other loving couples out there in the Supreme Court. So basically, as we discuss this, and keep in mind, Donald Trump himself has a gay person on his cabinet. So this is what's so kind of interesting about this. The evangelical has gone way overboard, and there are, I'm totally support people who believe in what they want to believe in, but don't force it on somebody else. And this is what Davis is trying to do. She's trying to, grandstand and get her 15 seconds of fame with all of this. This do as I say, not as I do. I myself, of course, I have no problem with gay marriage. I'm a notary on the side, and I have, marrying people, whether they're gay, straight, whatever. I don't give a flip. As long as they have their court the documents from the clerk of court. And this is what's going on across Texas and other states, is now the clerk of courts are refusing to issue marriage licenses to people, which technically is illegal. And Davis was jailed for that. And, she's no longer a clerk of court. So, you've got to understand what's going on here. Another quick breaking news before I get into my actual podcast. The Supreme Court granted Trump a temporary emergency stay on paying for the remainder of the SNAP benefits while the lower courts decide their actions and run it through the lower appellate courts. What this means is, Trump has said he has issued 65% of the funding for SNAP benefits, and he doesn't have any more money to do 100%, as they were ordered just this past week by another court, and that's why he went to the Supreme Court, which gave him a temporary stay. I emphasize temporary stay. So that is the late breaking news. Now let's get into our podcast. Republicans are claiming that the U.S. President Donald Trump is desperate to end the government shutdown, which we all know is still going on, and the government shutdown is now the longest in history. It has gone over 39 days. And so here we are, with now airports being forced to cut back on flights. And lawmakers are still struggling to find common ground on previously bipartisan issues such as food aid and health care. And we were hoping this Friday that there might be a break in the thing, but it hasn't happened. The last shutdown, which started December 2018, was brought about by disagreements over money to fund the wall along the U.S.-Mexican border. have only 53 Senate seats, meaning they need at least 7 Democrats or independents to reopen the federal government. They are not getting that. The Democrats are staying pat. But in repeated votes since the federal agency shut on October 1st, just 3 Democrats have been willing to support funding legislation. Throughout the shutdown, Donald Trump has selectively reprogrammed federal funds to protect priorities central to his political agenda. Trump continues to exert an iron grip on the shutdown, which sees Democrats and Republicans stuck over passing a spending plan which would reopen the federal agencies. He is resisting political and even federal court pressure to ease the burden on vulnerable Americans while protesting that he has no power to end the impasse. I am quoting him now. I mean, the Republicans are voting almost unanimously to end it, and the Democrats keep voting against ending it. You know, they've never had this. This has happened like 18 times before, he says. The Democrats always voted for an extension, always saying, give us an extension and we'll work it out. So, you know, as I mentioned, the federal 2 judges said that he was supposed to use $5 billion in contingency funds to pay for food assistance SNAP programs, and he said he's already burnt that up and he has no more money. So we are kind of a impasse here. So let me break this down for you. And for those of you who say this is a Democrat's fault, you've got to think of one thing. The Democrats are simply asking for a 1-year extension on the Affordable Care Act for Medicare and Medicaid. They want that attached to this bill that the CRA that they presently got in front of them. That's all they're asking for. And the Republicans are refusing to do that. The Republicans hold the House, they hold the Senate, and, they got a Republican president. It's in their hands. The Democrats are asking simply to keep the Affordable Care Act in place so people can pay for their health care. Now, for those of you who say, well, that's all going to these illegal immigrants and it's out of control, blah, 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 blah. All right, I've got a good friend who is not an illegal alien. He's a common guy, just like myself. And his health care has already been expected to go up $900. Now, you tell me, where are these people supposed to pull this money out of their butt? They can't, all right? Our own health care, which we have, is gone up. And the problem is, for those folks who are on Social Security and they do get a raise in Social Security, that raise basically just wipes out the increase that's coming to them in the form of the increased health care payments. And so, the thing is that these Republicans are so full of themselves, so egotistical, that they're not going to budge. We want our big, beautiful bill, so we got billions to tax cuts the rich, and we can continue to fund ICE, and that's all that's important to us. We don't give a rat about your health care. We got our money, so why should you care? The wealthy people, so their premiums go up $900 or $2,000. They don't care. They can just write a check for that. 90% of the American people cannot do that. So I don't really think that the Democrats are asking for a whole hell of a lot. And it's sad that we're in a stalemate, but that's where we sit right now. And, the final point on this is Mike Johnson even refuses to call the House back into session so they can discuss anything. They have been on a 9-week break, and they're not budging. They're still in recess. He still hasn't affirmed the Arizona Republican representative that she can even be sworn into office. She's still at a stalemate. So these Republicans, to be honest with you, are acting like babies. They really are. It's sad, and you're asking me to take sides. Well, I am, because they're just, the Democrats are not asking for a lot except to protect people who are going to not be able to afford their health care. And this little thing about them whining and belly aching, well, the thing is crooked and all the illegal aliens are on it, is BS. Okay, it is total BS. That's just their excuse so they can continue their project 2025 of the white privilege, get everything, everybody else gets nothing. That's really what it is. So moving on, before I wrap this up, let's talk a little bit about the air travel situation that's going on. Now, these are the major airports that are facing a lot of flight cancellations, just so you know. And as you look at this graphic here, the air traffic controllers are not getting paid. And so they're not getting paid. They're calling in sick and just not coming to work. In fact, a lot of them already quit their jobs and looking for something else because they too have to put food on the table, just like the people who are on SNAP benefits. They got to put food on the table. So, again, Trump doesn't want to create extra funding to pay for the air traffic control people. So there you go. Your flights are being canceled. The Secretary of Transportation has already cut back, said that flights must strike back 10% of their flights so they can continue to operate safely. So if this continues to drag on for a couple more weeks, you're going to be in a Thanksgiving holiday break, and it's going to be an effing mess, as you're well aware of. So you got to get ready for that, ladies and gentlemen. You got to get ready for that. So, another thing that I'm going to get into now here is, and you're going to be seeing some videos, is this increased situation with our migrant workers. Well, not workers, but just the migrants that are slowly being shipped off and stuff. So Trump and Pete Hegseth continue to go after alleged drug trafficking boats, killing another 9 people. That is separate from the migration situations that's going on. But I just wanted to bring that up to you, so because you know that we want to get into a war with Argentina now. So, but again, this immigration crackdown, he said Donald Trump did say on a recent interview that ICE needs to do more. Watch this brief clip.
More recently, Americans have been watching videos of ICE tackling a young mother, tear gas being used in a Chicago residential neighborhood, and the smashing of car windows. Have some of these raids gone too far?
No, I think they haven't gone far enough because we've been held back by the judges, by the liberal judges that were put in by Biden and by Obama.
You're okay with those tactics?
Yeah, because you have to get the people.
So, you know, they need to do more. Now, I want to read to you some statistics with the going on with the migration. So as of late 2025, the number of migrants in the United States detention facilities are at a modern high, with approximately 59,000 to 61,000 people in ICE custody as of September 2025. While there is no official data for released migrants, the Department of Homeland Security reported that over 2 million individuals have been removed or self-deported by September of 2025. Detention numbers totaled detained around 59,000 to 61,000. As I just said, people were in ICE detention as of September, a significant increase from previous years' detention population. Now, the number of detainees has been rising sharply since June of 2025 due to the increased interior enforcement activity. In September of this, just a couple months ago, the majority of detainees, 71.5%, had no criminal conviction, while a smaller portion had been convicted of crimes, other minor ones. Detention facilities. The United States has the world's largest immigration detention system with about 200 facilities, including privately run centers, local jails, and juvenile detention centers. The Department of Homeland Security reported that over 2 million individuals were removed or self-deported, as I just said. So let's talk about that for just a moment. Now, did you see the number I just said about the number of detention facilities here in the United States? Doesn't that remind you of something that was going on in 1939 and 40 in Germany? Did you see the numbers of people that are being put in those detention centers? Did you hear the numbers that I just said about those who have not committed any crime but are being detained? While these ICE agents have been ordered to arrest 3,000 people a day, and as you been watching those videos I've been showing of some of those people who are being detained, they are it's getting scary. Now, here's something you really need to understand, and you can look this up. This is the law. If you overstay your visa in the United States, that is a civil matter. It is not a crime. A lot of these migrants have been going to the civil courts to get their visas renewed, and guess who's waiting for them there? ICE agents, and they are immediately arrested for a civil matter, not a criminal matter. Now, as far as criminal matter, if you are brought over the border by, say, a coyote, and you paid that coyote, usually it's $3,000 to $10,000. These people all gather up, have a coyote, bring them over the border. Yes, that's illegal. Yes, you cross the border illegally. Yes, that is a crime. Yes, you can be arrested for that. So that's on you. Trump said at the beginning that he was just going after the so-called nut jobs, murderers, rapists, drug dealers that have come over this border illegally. That would have been perfectly fine, and I would have supported that, as would probably thousands of other Americans. But that isn't the case. He's following Project 2025, and that is to get everybody that's got brown skin or is from the South, Mexico, Argentina, Colombia, wherever you're from, round them up and arrest them and get them into detention camps, and let's ship them out of here. They are all, every single one of them, criminal or not, due in this country. They are entitled to due process. They are not getting that. Trump has said himself he wants to do away with due process for these so-called rapists, criminals. You know, every single 3,000 people a day are being rounded up, and you're telling me every single one of them are criminals, rapists, murderers, drug addicts, mental cases. I don't think so. And as you just saw in this video here, a lady who was, where she was grabbed out of a daycare center in front of children. I mean, even local police officers have dignity enough to, if they're going to put handcuffs on somebody, they take them out of the sight of children. You know, like if they got a mom and dad who has to be arrested, so the children don't get traumatized and see that. Not these guys. And that is another thing that's coming on those reports. These ICE agents, hundreds of them are being put on payroll. They have no training. Some of them don't even have a high school education. Some of them have criminal records themselves. Well, of course, Trump has 34 convicted. He's a 34 convicted fellow, so I guess that doesn't matter in the Trump administration. And they're just giving them a gun and a badge and putting them out there. And you can see how rough and they're dragging people out. So it's sad. But I just wanted to bring that out, you know, about what is going on here. All right. So as you see that, then you kind of get an idea. All right. And other breaking, and well, it's not breaking news, but it's kind of interesting. President Trump pardoned Changpeng Zhao, he's also known as CZ, the founder of the cryptocurrency exchange, Binance, who had pleaded guilty to violating anti-money laundering laws and paid a large fine. The pardon was framed by the White House as a correction to an overreach by the previous administration, which they characterized as being a war on cryptocurrency. However, Trump has publicly stated that he doesn't even know who Zhao is, and claim that has been drawing criticism. Watch this brief clip from CBS News' 60 Minutes.
His crypto exchange, Binance, helped facilitate a $2 billion purchase of World Liberty Financial's stablecoin. And then you pardoned CZ. How do you address the appearance of pay for play?
Well, here's the thing. I know nothing about it because I'm too busy doing the other.
But he got a pardon. But he got a pardon.
No, I can only tell you this. My sons are into it. I'm glad they are because it's probably a great industry, crypto. I think it's good. You know, they're running a business. They're not in government.
Now, the rationale was the White House stated that the pardon was necessary because the Biden administration have over-prosecuted the case. Well, they over-prosecuted the case because Trump's kids were involved with this, his children, you know, and they're still involved overseas with this cryptocurrency thing. It was part of a broader pattern that pardons that included other prominent figures in the cryptocurrency industry, such as Ross Ulbricht and 3 co-founders of BiteMex. Trump's statements, he said in televised interviews, Trump claimed that he didn't even know who ZZ was. So this is the situation here. He doesn't even know who these people are, and yet he's giving them pardons like he's done to thousands of other people like stormed the Capitol, you know, and all that. he just puts out blanket pardons or whatever the fact may be, and he doesn't even know who half these people are. You want to know what's going on? Is the fact of the matter is that he's getting told what to do. There are people, probably Stephen Miller and some others. They are the ones that are behind the scenes, just telling Trump sign this, and he doesn't, because I don't know. I don't want to say he's a puppet, but something's going on here where Trump is just doing things and he doesn't even know what he's doing half the time. Now, this is going on back into nuclear testing. Trump suggests China and Russia are testing nuclear weapons. Trump was asked about this, too, in a recent interview. And he says he's going to go back to nuclear testing. Now, he has stated that they're not going to have warheads on there, but if China and Russia are doing nuclear testing, we need to do, too. And again, that has sparked logistical questions and concerns about escalating tensions when we get into that. So he's saying, well, North Korea's doing it, Russia's doing it, so we need to do it too. And what's good for the goose is good for the gander. He says, you just don't know about it. That would be certainly newsworthy, but Russia's testing, China's testing, so they don't talk about it. But we're going to have to get into there too. So I'm going to tell everybody we're going to do it too, so they know that we're doing it. It's just crazy that he's going into all this, and it's kind of scary, folks, isn't it? That's what this show is for, to let you know what's really going on. In other news, and this is kind of more of a pleasant situation and kind of, put the Democrats in the spotlight and the Republicans a little bit on the defense, and that is the recent victories that we have seen. Yes, Democrats scored victories in 4 major races this past week in New York City, mayoral race, the governor's races in New Jersey and Virginia, and Prop 50 also passed in California's redistricting ballot measure. Now, exit polling has showed voters went to the polls with worries about the economy on their minds. Gee, I don't blame them there, and coupled with broader discontent with the state of the country right now and Donald Trump. The night saw 2 kinds of Democrats win, hailing from the opposite sides of the party. Mickey Sherrill and Abigail Spanberger, both moderates, won their governorships of New Jersey and Virginia, while on the far left, Democratic Socialist Zoran Badami prevailed in his race for the New York City's mayor's race. And moderate ex-governor Andrew Cuomo, who ran as an independent after Badami beat him in the primary, he was basically said, geez, he didn't stand a chance in hell anyway, but, Trump supported him. The first person Madami quoted in his victory speech was socialist Eugene Debs, and he offered withering criticism, Cuomo declaring, "Let tonight be the final time I utter his name." You probably remember that on the news. As we turn the page on a politics that has abandoned many and answers only the few. California's also said yes to Prop 50, which is going to allow redistricting. And, of course, the governor of that state encouraged other states to get on board and do that because GOP, of course, as you're well aware of, are gerrymandering their red states so they can perhaps save the House. The only reason they're doing all this, folks, is because the Republicans are doing it and they're trying to, sneak behind the corners and stuff so they can hold on to the House. They know, the Republicans know, that in the midterms the House is going to be in jeopardy and they want to hold on to their control, and they may lose that. So that is what's going on. Now, this is what's funny. Trump's reason for the loss, well, he says it's because I wasn't on the ballot. I find that kind of funny. I'm not on the ballot, so that's the only reason we lost. My name wasn't out there. Everybody knows who I am, and if I was on the ballot, this wouldn't have happened. Crazy stuff that he would actually say that, don't you think? He's the thought process that if he was on the ballot, things would be different is kind of crazy. And let me read his quote from X. Well, not from X, from his Truth Social post. He's never on X. He's on his own. He's on everything that he owns. He goes, Trump wasn't on the ballot and Shutdown were the 2 reasons that Republicans lost elections tonight. According to pollsters, he posted that, but he didn't name who the pollsters were. And so this is Donald Trump. It's all about me. And if my name was to have been in there, this would have been a whole different story. I really don't think so, because people are starting to wake up, thank God. Other quick news, as you know, Nancy Pelosi, who's now 85 years of age, she is retiring. She was the first female Speaker of the House. Of course, everybody, even on the Republican side, the Senate said wished her the best, except Donald Trump. He called her crazy, good things, good riddance. He had nothing pleasant to say, and that's just the nature of, again, a little, I don't know, sixth grade type of tactics that are being used to say that. He should have at least, said, geez, I wish you the best. He didn't say that. He didn't even do that when Dick Cheney passed away. He did lower the flag to half staff, but he didn't say jack about thank you for your time and for all these times in Congress and when he was working under George Bush. He didn't say anything about that. He's a fellow Republican, Dick Cheney was, but he's bitter at him because his daughter, brought him up on investigation charges because she believed in the Constitution. And so Trump is a spoiled brat when it comes to that. You cross me, I'm going to cross you. And I did just boom, 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 pumping. It's sad. The presidency is supposed to be an office of respect and dignity. And every president except him has been able to reach their hand across the aisle and get things done. They work together. You're going to have differences, but you reach your hand across the aisle. He doesn't do that. It's my way or the highway. That's his whole thing. And it's kind of sad that he wouldn't say any kind words about Dick Cheney and Nancy Pelosi. One's a Republican, one's a Democrat, but both of them have crossed him, so therefore I ain't got nothing else to say. And this is another weird piece of news that's going on. Laura Loomer. Yeah. The far-right political activist and former congressional candidate in Florida has been credentialized to cover the Defense Department. And because all the other people, including Fox News, have walked out of the Pentagon because of the fact of the matter is Pete Hegseth wanted to approve everything they wrote and put his own I's and T's crossing. And in other words, he wanted to censure news, which isn't a violation of the First Amendment and the right of the free press. But Laura Loomer got credentialized, and you can probably figure out why. It's because she's going to do nothing but write good things and anything that Pete Hegseth tells her to write. So therefore, she can go in there and get credentialized, can she? She's joining a new cohort of right-wing media that have agreed to the Pentagon's new press policy, which the other mainstream media have not. Loomer, who's just 32 years of age, has forged a close alliance with President Donald Trump, routinely meeting with the president in the Oval Office during his second term. She has frustrated some in the administration with her proximity to where Trump and the public, her office is being located, and how she gets in there to talk to him whenever she wants. And also her public criticism of high-ranking defense and national security officials who, she argues, are disloyal to Donald Trump. Some who have been dismissed soon after her rebukes. So when Laura Loomer speaks, Donald Trump listens and say, okay, well, I'll fire him if you think I should. And so the White House press corps and the Pentagon press corps, they're taking note of all this. Now, journalists covering the Pentagon walked out of the building, as you well aware. I had that on my podcast a couple weeks ago in masses last month when Pete Hegseth's do this or get out. Well, okay, we'll get out. And with his new department press policy for the Department of War, giving information made available by the government. Dozens of news outlets, which was funny is because of Fox News, walking out. They just went, shoop, we're gone. Now, besides Laura Loomer, there is another one, the Post-Millennial and Lindell TV, My Pillow founder Michael Lindell's streaming service, along with independent journalists and online influencers. Some of these have been allowed to cover the Pentagon. They did sign the papers that, we'll cover the Pentagon in the way that you want us to. So you've got about 3 or 4 in there out of the dozens of others that walked out, like AP and Fox, CNN, NBC, CBS. They all walked out. Now, as far as her being credentialized, of course, the White House has declined comment. Of course, they're going to decline comment. You can't get the people out there and say anything intelligent about her. They're just going to say, yeah, I don't know, or Trump will play. I'm not aware of it. So some other quick things that were influenced by Laura Loomer. Timothy Hogg, who was ousted as director of the National Security Agency and head of the U.S. Cyber Command in April, he was ousted after Loomer said that she advocated his dismissal. NSA Director Tim Haw and his deputy Wendy Noble have been disloyal to President Trump, Loomer said. So that was, they were fired. So you can see how Laura Loomer has the president's ear on all of this. These kinds of things where you don't have freedom of the press is kind of sad. Where again, Trump wants to control the press, and he's been doing this because he's got a friend of his that's running the FCC, and this is how he's getting around all this. I mean, even on 60 Minutes, the questions that were given to Trump were very softball, and that is never happened with CBS News and 60 Minutes. But because CBS agreed to softball Trump when Trump got his FCC person to approve the sale of Skydance and Paramount, which Paramount owns CBS, this is what they got in return. I'll let this go through, but by God, I want nothing but favorable coverage of me going forward. And so this is why, it was ridiculous. That interview. And there were a couple little bit of hard questions. She press as much as she could, the interviewer, but and they did edit some things out, which is kind of funny because you would think that Trump sued CBS News because of how they covered the vice president Kamala Harris when she was running for president. They did some editing there. That's why he sued them. Well, I think Kamala Harris should probably now sue CBS because the way they edited Trump. But she's got more dignity than that because she does believe in free press. So interesting things going on there. So in a more humorous note, let's take a look at this. This is Donald Trump taking a quick nap. I like to call him now Commander in Sleep. Instead of Commander in Chief, he's Commander in Sleep. So this is a funny picture. MSNBC host and former Biden White House press secretary Jen Psaki had a little fun with this. She kind of roasted President Donald Trump for nodding off during an Oval Office event as of all things really. Dementia, obesity, and sleep loss was a discussion by Dr. Oz, and he was holding a press conference on it. This was the same press conference where somebody collapsed from standing. I don't know, some heat or stuff, which again, Trump didn't even acknowledge till after he saw what was going on, and they said he's okay. But, this photo and video of Trump sleeping kind of went viral, and before I get into it more, here's the rest of that piece where this is, where it's real quick. Watch this.
People can sleep again because they can breathe as when they go to bed. Folks whose knees don't hurt. People who don't have heart attacks, renal failure, dementia. All the things we know are associated with obesity and much more. So
you saw a quick shot where he's just kind of nodding off in the back there as Dr. Oz was talking. What is weird about it is he's talking about obesity and fatness and dementia. And, several things that people have saying that Trump may be engaging with. Everybody knows Trump's overweight, although he says he's fit as a fiddle and all that, but you can tell by looking at him he's not. So, and then that medical emergency happens. So, I bring this up because it's kind of funny. He's always saying Sleepy Joe and all this, and here, and again, Trump's White House press secretary can't get around this. I mean, what is she going to say? He's in deep thought? I don't think so. So very, very interesting. As people have been talking about Trump. He had another MRI that he had to get to, and of course the White House sugarcoated that with what was this, another annual exam. You don't have an MRI on your annual exams unless there's a need for it. So don't tell me that there's something not going on there. So Very, very interesting. And other news as I get ready to wrap up this podcast is our job cuts. And this is kind of scary stuff, folks. So look at that last number there, 153,000. All right. U.S. companies announced 153,074 job cuts in October 2025. And that's one of the highest numbers ever. It's a 22-year high for the month, driven by cost-cutting and AI adoption. That's one reason for those job cuts. AI is taking over. The surge represents a 183% increase from September and a 175% increase from October 2024. The technology and warehousing sectors led to the cuts, pushing the year to a date total of nearly 1.1 million, the highest since 2020. Total cuts, 153,074 in comparison. This is the highest number for the month of October in 2020, 22 years, as I just stated. A monthly change of 183% increase from September year over year. 175% increase from October 2024 year to date. Nearly 1.1 million job cuts have been announced in 2025 since 2020. Now, I bring this up because even here in wonderful Florida, the home of Governor Ron DeSantis, Frito-Lay has announced 2 closings of warehouses, a loss of 500 jobs in Orlando. Frito-Lay has had a warehouse and production facility in Orlando since 1965. Again, 500 jobs are going to be lost in Orlando. Now, you may say, well, that's minuscule. Orlando's a huge city, so what the hell? Let them go to work for Universal or Disney World or something. Well, these people are getting paid $20, $30 an hour. The reason for the closing is because people are becoming more health conscious, and as you know, Frito-Lay makes a lot of potato chips and Frito-Lay corn chips and a lot of stuff that has nothing but crap in it. So, and people are cutting back; they're becoming more health conscious. So that is why they're closing the plant. Sales are going way, way down. Frito-Lay, by the way, as you may or may not know, is owned by PepsiCo. So, and they own, Kentucky Fried Chicken and Taco Bell and some other companies. So, and Frito-Lay is one of them. So, but that's really the reason for the closing is because people's eating habits are changing. So, what are you going to do about that? All right. That is my podcast for this week. Keep your ear to the television and your media outlets as the Supreme Court makes that very closely watched decision on gay marriage from that evangelical lady who's been divorced 3 or 4 times. And, I don't know. I like I said, a lot of people don't think this is going to go anywhere, and I hope they're right, but let's just wait and see. Anyway, let's try to get the government open. You Republicans out there, quit being so pompous and do the right thing and extend the health care, and you can open up this country back up in minutes. You can just do the right thing. Until then, you try to have a good week. This is Roy Garten.